Okay, so guys, as we have promised last year as well, and this year, we are again back with our budget session. But this time it is a different. It is on a different note. It is on a more of an informal as well as a more consumer friendly note. And with that motive that we wanted to make it more generalized and understandable to the more masses. So keeping that way in mind, we are back again with the budget session, the budget analysis session, which will be in the form of a podcast. And podcast is something which is quite familiar with most of the people nowadays, and we are trying to make sure that this thing reaches out to the maximum people and more people get to know what exactly is there in the budget 2023 and 2024, and what they could also figure out what was there for those people who might be interested to get some benefit out of this budget, and also for those people who are sad of the fact that something which could have been there is not present. So we'll look at it and we'll definitely give you a conclusory opinion after that, and we'll have the speakers from different like giving different opinions, and we'll try to make sure that it is as easy as possible for you to understand, in spite of not knowing several economic terms. You could figure out the whole meaning of this budget. That is one thing we are trying to achieve with this session. So I would like to introduce you to Nilamri Kakaraparti, who is there with us for this session, and we'll have definitely one or two more speakers for the session who could be present with us for the with their opinions. And so this gives me a very wide, like it brings a very wide smile on my face to bring Nilamri to the podium, because she has been there with us for quite some time, and it is great to have you, Nilamri, and it is a pleasure to have you with us. And I would love you to introduce yourself, and we can proceed with the session.
So hi, Aryansh. It's good to be, contributing something for the post-budget analysis too. So as explained by Aryansh, what we were thinking that this time we would explain the whole content of the budget, maybe from more of a stakeholder perspective, because there have been so much of speculation around this budget because it's the last working year of the BJP government for now, and there has been so many expectations on what they would offer, what is there in the store for different stakeholders, for farmers, for industrialists, for investors. So I think the hustle that was there before the budget was introduced is continuing to be there even post the budget was introduced. So again, being one of the most curious readers, as I was going through so many articles and debate sessions to know what the whole scenario is about, like what we can expect from the budget. There was this one article that described it as saying no pain, no gain. That really stuck with me because, you know, uh, this time's budget has, though mentioned things, it has not really explained why those things are being done, or maybe we did not really get any sort of comparison thing of what was done last year, and is this time, is it a continuation or is it a new scheme, new policy, or what? And I think one of the most things that has been widely talked about is the capex scenario. Like that, you can see it as top one in the whole budget thing. So again, explaining what capex is all about, it is basically investing in infrastructure, in capital assets, in projects that could eventually lead to increase in output or employment in a longer period of time. Now, what we have to look here is that India is already sort of touching the recessionary phase, or it's expected to touch that recessionary phase. There has been layouts all over. Companies have been backing out. So, in such a situation, how productive is this whole capex investment could be? There have been many economic theories that have been explaining the whole idea of multiplier effect. That if you invest today, what can you expect in future over so many years or over such a defined period of time? Now, also there are theories that describe that there's always a gap between the time when the particular policy or scheme is announced and the time when we can actually see the results coming out of it, like after the whole actionable period. And here, I think in many of these schemes and policies that have been announced, we are not given an idea of what this whole period can be. Say, if I'm expecting to enter into the IT sector, and while listening to the budget, yes, I was very fascinated by knowing that there would be so many employment opportunities being created. And if I have to ask by what time can I expect such a boom in the IT sector, I would not have an answer. Maybe I would be given an answer like, okay, soon. How do you define the soon? Is it 2 quarters? Is it a year? Is it 2 years? Or does it go as long as 6 to 5 years? So that is a long time. I want an employment opportunity now. So is it possible? I need an answer for that, because people who are in the labor force right now, we don't want to know what sort of job opportunities we can expect over a period of time. We want to be employed now. So you let us know what you can offer now. So I think somewhere uh, we are not very clear about what are the sectors that can create employment in short term. Like, yeah, certain policy has been announced, but what is the credibility of it? How would a common man be able to analyze budget in this terms when things have been announced and not explained? So I think this is what something that I found about capex in particular.
One more
Do
thing
you
to add
have
on to your point.
something?
Yeah, one more thing to
Yes.
add on to your point. We might have banned the we might have stopped working on the 5-year plan model. Like the government might have stopped the planning commission and converted it to Niti Aayog. But still the planning is operating on a 5-year basis. Like each and every plan which is coming up, like which each and everything which is there, is like mentioned in the budget, it comes into effect either 5-year or on a 10-year basis. Like it's
Yes.
continuity which keeps on happening in our budget. This budget also reflects that aspect of it. Like despite of it was promised from the very from the previous budgets as well, that there could be several expenditure, like several amount of investments which should be made in the public health sector, which is a very important aspect of this the capex thing, because this is after even after this pandemic, the government is restricting themselves to invest a hell lot of money in this the public health sector. Like as we figured out that whatsoever economies who were investing it in the public health sector, they were getting, like, they are getting yields, and they might have tackled this COVID in a better way of some certain things. But what is happening is the amount of investment which is going in the medical sector is going in a way which is not yet satisfactory for the whole nation. Even if the consumers are not satisfied with this thing, although they will make sure that this much of percentage is going to that particular sector, but it is still very low as compared to the current requirements which should be there. And there are certain things which I would like to also point out, is that there the expenditure towards the clean energy and agriculture, this should be increased to make sure that we don't lag behind on this aspect, because agriculture itself contributes a lot to the economy. And if we are not expecting any, and if you are not getting much investment in that area, it is somewhat showing a negative sign to some sort of like to a particular community, which is a very which I believe is a negative sign for this government. I don't know why are they doing this. Maybe they could do some more in improvisations in the upcoming election year budget. But this is something which is a point which needs to be highlighted. And the other things which could be highlighted is that the prices of the commodities, the basic commodities, nothing is being done for that aspect, because they are stopping themselves to invest in the agriculture sector. And ultimately what is happening is the load is coming on the consumers, the normal consumer, basically the lower and the middle class people. And I hate to say that, but this government is somewhat looking like the budget, looking like the government for the richest, for making the rich people more richest, and the poor being the more poorest. So which is a very it's an alarming scenario for us citizens. But we could figure out what could happen in the upcoming time. With the Lok Sabha elections also around the corner, we are just a year away from that. So, and but there are lots of attractions being made for the FIIs, the foreign institutional investors. Like government is making the budget in such a way that we are seeing that the foreign investment is on our doors. They are knocking our doors to come in, right? So there are certain things which could have been done in a better way, but it is not. So capex is something which is very important for the whole GDP of the nation, and this, I guess, the government has compromised a bit when it comes to the spending for several sectors, and I guess this might be resolved or not. We don't know, but yeah, corrections are needed, right?
Again, reflecting on the pharmaceutical sector and the rural sector in the respective order, there has been announcements made in with regards to the pharmaceutical sector also, that they would be setting up so many nursing colleges, and they would make sure that whatever is being taught in there, whatever the skills set is being induced in the academic curriculum there, that will be in accordance with what is being expected in the market. uh, yes, it's definitely, I think, one of the good things, given how pharma sector is one such sector where India has a very good comparative advantage in when we talk about global trade and how everything has evolved since COVID. But again, it's the same thing that if I'm saying today that I'm going to make some changes in the CBSE syllabus, I cannot really say that from the very next week itself, people would be learning about something entirely different. It would take so much of time physically to make changes in the syllabus, to change the chapters, the content, print books, distribute it. So we need to read between the lines, and that's when we know all of these things. That fine, they are investing in pharmaceutical sector. It's very good that the health sector is being expanded and given so much of importance. But again, what is the credibility of it? By what time can we expect all of these things being seen? And again, talking about the rural economy, Manrega has been scraped off. So much a part of a major chunk of it has been cut down. And do we have any other rural employment scheme in place? Maybe no. And what's happening here is that very less has been reflected in terms of the farming sector, the primary rural sector. And I personally feel that they have tried developing everything that is in the peripherals. Like there is a Matsya Sampada Yojana, there is some credit societies, there are some changes in the whole supply chain management that revolves around agriculture. But where is the employment in rural sector? It is like, a person who doesn't know how to cook is being given all sort of home appliances that are related to cooking. खाना कैसे बनाओगे? You don't know how to cook, and maybe you don't even have ingredients. So you need to have some skills to produce something, and that output would then be put in that whole supply chain. It's then that you can avail all the other schemes, the subsidies, or whatever is related with regard to the rural sector. If there's no employment, there's no output. So क्या फायदा इन सब schemes का? There need to be a whole system that has to be constructed. Just concentrating on the peripherals would not yield something productive. There has to be employment, and even in all those areas where they told there can be employment opportunities created, we need to really focus on the thing that when they talk about employment opportunities, it is only for the skilled labor. Unskilled labor is nowhere in the picture, because you need to induce so many more things to make sure that the unskilled labor is being given the very right to be employed, to have a proper livelihood, to have a convenient and regular source of income. And nothing much has been done over there. There has been change is announced even in education sector, where things are being digitalized, they're being easily made available. So many courses are being brought, and so much of IT related services to and e-libraries to make sure that people can avail all the services. They can take in whatever course they want and upskill themselves. Again, everything is related to skilled labor, and given that one thing, India is a labor intensive country, and even in that labor intensiveness, most of the labor is unskilled. So where is the content for them? This thing has not been reflected on. There is a very little mention of employment in the very first place, employment that we can expect in short term, not long term. And even in that, only the skilled labor is something that's being benefited. Even with the tax rates, what will a person who's earning daily wages do with the tax rates? He can't even pay properly. And I think that is something which has been a little disappointing part of the budget. Nothing has been reflected on the rural sector.
Talking about the rural sector, the government, when you like, when there's a question raised on this point, what will happen is that government will straight away come up with the several schemes for them, right? Like as you rightly mentioned about some schemes. But where is the utility of it? When these schemes are not known to these people, when these schemes are not known to the people living in the remote villages, then how are they going to know that yes, there's some scheme by this name, and I can avail this much benefits from them? Like I quote a very basic example, I guess, which many of us might have read in our books. So there was some excerpts in the books of the class 10th economics, the NCRT books. So they usually give us such a scenario where it is quite clear that the people living in the remote villages, one person who is knowing of these schemes in the same village, it's not that this is other village, two person living in the same village, one who has an information of the schemes gets to avail several things, several benefits, and he or she makes sure that his family and his children is quite well literate and they are having a good life, they're leading a good life. And on the other hand, there is a family who is in a way living on a good, like, two course meal they can have, but it's not certain they might have it for the whole period of the year, right? So, and the main difference over here is just the awareness, the reach of the programs, the reach of the schemes, and these are basic things which are lagging. And talking about the employment opportunities, like, it's not that the unskilled labor couldn't be employed, it's just that you have to open the different channels. Like government the whole budget thing, it revolves around the scenario that we are providing so many opportunities for the for the people who are willing to take up a job, right? Even the definition of unemployment is quite contradictory to some extent, that it is that form of employment where a person who is willing to take up a job is unable to find a job, right? What about those people who are willing but like they don't have skills, right? They don't have skills, they are willing, they are still not taking up a job. They are not even knowing the fact that they can take up a job. There are things available for them. So if there is unemployment, if we just want to have the unemployment figures in front of us, yes, that's the best way, if you just want to have the negative aspect of it. But if you want to change the negative to the positive side of it, so we can create those channels for that. The I was surprised to hear this budget, even the last budget as well. I guess almost the least investment was there in the education sector. So what is going on? It is it is not at all getting. We can't figure out a way to understand this whole thing. That is something which is the grassroots. That is which is done on the grassroots level. We are a developing nation, not a developed nation that will keep on that will keep on spending on the capex, the whole of the infrastructure, and we'll keep on improving that. Where are the improvement in the roots? We are not doing much for that. And even this budget disappoints on that aspect as well. They'll keep on saying that you will invest more for the entrepreneurship, will bring in more startup programs, will bring in schemes for these people to get money to be funded, be tax free for 5 years, 4 years. There are n number of schemes. If you go in depth of it, there are n number of schemes for the MSMEs, for the for the cottage industries, and for the different sets of industries, or the the small companies. But what about the people who might who are willing to get this thing out of it without having the expertise of it, right? We are not still we are not able to cater to that part of it. Like the basics is still not clear. The root, the people who are there in the villages, the rural area, even in the urban areas, the people who are like not having the knowledge of it, how are we going to eradicate that? The budget is not at all, unlike it is can we say that it is not traveling on the road basis. It is somewhere, it is always there in they're using the airways. So like I am not sure what is going to happen with this thing. So what's your take? Like how is this entrepreneurship going to resolve this whole rural thing?
Again, we can say the same thing, that it's mostly channelized towards the skilled labor. Where are entrepreneurship programs being taken up in urban areas? That is quite definite. And what is happening to the rural areas? Like, there has to be replacement of Mandega or some scheme that can bring in employment. So is it happening in there? Maybe no. So I think employment is sort of jeopardized, or has not been very magnified in the budget, which has to be there given that there's so much of negative expectations that's in the economy. And just explaining or just putting a picture of reduced tax rates would not yield much results, because people need to have jobs to pay taxes, given the thing. So where are they getting the job opportunities from? So much light has been thrown on the whole taxation scenario, the whole investment thing. And we have something called as like consumer positivism, or the economy being in a positive light. So that such an environment has to be created, even to pull in all the private investors to make that crowding in effect. So are we really doing that? Is the scenario really that attractive that people are coming in to invest, or to even think about creating employment opportunities? So that's really important to like reflect on.
Exactly. Like we also talk about this term very relevant in this current scenario, that is industry 4.2, right? We always talk about that being digital is the next big thing, and it is happening like everywhere in the world. But being digital is one thing, and being accessible to digital things is one another thing. And apart, like beginning from this Digital India initiative, I guess not much accessibility is achieved till now. Till now, there are so many areas which is having the issue of like not having access to internet, not having access to digital things, digital instruments. So how like any like it's like that they have announced this Digital India initiative a few years back. They have announced it. They had not given any reports of what was the accessibility reach of it, how many areas we have digitalized, how many cities we have digitalized, how many grams we have digitalized, how many gram panchayats we have digitalized. It's not at all clear, right? I one more thing is there, like results is one thing, and announcements of thing is another. So like it's a problem which happens with the students as well, right? Like we are not sure of our results, but yeah, we are sure of the exams, that yeah, we have given the exam. So it's kind of happening here as well, but it benefits some of them and it doesn't benefit other sides, right? So uh, maybe having a two-side effect of it, but yes, this whole uh, announcement of the employment schemes as well as the taxation schemes, You mentioned about the tax structure, right? The benefits they can derive from the tax structure. What about like it is also viewed from a perspective that it is also a bait for the employees to take up the new tax regime, right? It is a clear bait, it's an open bait. Nothing has been done to the old structure. It is not, nothing has been cleared. Either you remove it or something, nothing is done. It's still there. But if you want to, take the tax benefits, come to the new tax regime. Like it's a clear open invitation. So everything is in a spiral. Employment, like the basic education, it is not, nothing has been done over there. Even if you right now, if you read out the survey reports, the NSSO survey reports, you'll be surprised to know that the primary school accessibility is somehow good. Like till the primary age, people are sending this votes to the schools. When you compare it to the rural and the urban areas, but when you come back to the later half of it, you'll figure out there is the number of dropouts is more as compared to the number of the people completing their secondary education and the higher secondary education in the rural areas as compared to the urban areas, which is so the differentiation of the areas is very much important, and it is very much relevant for the whole economy, which is somehow I'm like sorry to mention this, but which is somehow being neglected in the budget when it comes out to the normal audience. We got so many things after this budget. I've watched several videos and several content. So it's like this budget is not even liked by the capitalists. That is a surprising aspect of it. Earlier budget might, like, they had a positive aspect to which is being liked by the capitalist people, the business houses and other people. But what is happening is it is this time it backfired from both the ends. I'm not sure what is going to happen for the next year, but yeah, if the government is able to get back on terms with the things mentioned on the paper this year, they might get some grace from this the capitalist side of it. But the regional side, the basically the lower ends are still unsatisfied with this, especially when it comes down to the employment, the education, and this the training programs. So the section wise the differentiation is very much required, and the allocation of funds should be done in that manner that it is benefiting all those, like all the individuals. Like just a small opinion that the nation should be looked as a nation. Just a notion. This notion should be considered. And even the people living in the urban areas are not satisfied much with this thing. We keep on saying about the unemployment. There is unemployment, right? Why is that several areas unemployment figures are getting reflected and some areas are not? But the unemployment thing is there. If government, if there are several, if there is some portion of the whole budget being spent on the awareness of the programs, that awareness of the internship programs, or this, there are several programs which could give you jobs, free jobs. It's not that you are being charged for getting jobs. So there are several things which could be done just for the sake of creating awareness. Nowadays, we can easily find that all the government education, all the government organizations are there, organizations as well as the government bodies are there on the social media, and social media is the best tool, or the almost a free tool to reach out to the masses in the best possible way and the most convenient way. But even if because like even if this whole presence is there, everyone is having access, the awareness is still missing. I don't think so it will cost much to the government, but yes, nothing is being done to this. We'll definitely look on to this thing, like what is going to happen and what is not. So I guess we could wind it up for now, and we can wrap like we can start up with the next session, which would have the different sectors, other sectors as well.